Hi guys, welcome to Vesna TV. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I have a mega video on Halloween DIYs, all from the Dollar Tree and over 25 of them. Let's get started. So we start off with these items from the Dollar Tree. So we've got this kind of coffin, we have the pallets and the little fence, as well as a ghost that I painted for another DIY in this video. And again, it's all from the Dollar Tree. The ghost was in a pack of 8. And then I've got these little beds, which came from the dollhouse from the Dollar Tree. If you look at my previous video, I made some haunted houses out of it. I've got the little wood blocks, some bones, and some hands, all from the Dollar Tree. And then I have leftover little pieces of wood, and those are from a pick, but it could be from a stir stick or any kind of thin little piece of wood or even cardboard, whatever you have. So I start off with painting, and I need to paint the coffin, kind of go for like a black coffin with some espresso brown and silver and cashmere and a little bit of white. You'll see I kind of do a mishmash of things. And then I also wipe it off with a paper towel. Once that is finished, I use the same combination of colors to paint over the picket fence. These are new that I've seen this year at Dollar Tree here in Canada. Now maybe we've had it, our location didn't have it. And again, I use the same mixture. I wipe it off. I wipe it off a little bit more with this one, and I use a bit more brown just so that it looks a little bit different than this coffin. And so here I am dry brushing. I have painted both sides, so I'm just dry brushing on the different colors, getting in between the crevices, using a thinner paintbrush, just kind of doing some final touch-ups. So once I finish with that, I do the same thing with the palette. Now for the palette, I add mostly this cashmere brown, but I am using the same brush that I didn't clean off, so it's going to give an illusion that it's a little bit of a darker brown. And again, you do whatever you like. I'm going to be covering this up anyway a little bit, so it just depends what you're looking to what look you're going for. Once I paint the palette, I also go ahead and paint these blocks, and these are just to give some height to my coffins. And I also go ahead and paint the bones. I'm just using that mishmash of colors over there. I'm not adding more or anything like that, basically just using up the paint. And it's just so that it doesn't look so light, and I'm only painting it on the sides and a few of the tops because I will be making, like I said, a little riser. So once that is done and dry, I go ahead and I assemble the piece. So I start with hot gluing the coffin, and I just kind of stick it in between the little slats in the palette and hot glue it there as well, just so it stays better. I put quite a bit of hot glue on both sides. Then I add the picket fences. Now the picket fences I put on the side of the palette so that I have a nice and good place to hot glue them. And I just put them in the corner. And now I did see this picture on Pinterest kind of like this, so that was my inspiration. But I think they did it a little bit different. Well, they used a completely different background. So anyway, I want to give it a little bit of dimension. So I am just sticking them to the sides. And then I have gone ahead and I've spray painted those little beds black. And I will assemble those so that I can put them in the little graveyard. I also put together the little risers and I glue them onto where the coffins will, or sorry, the tombstones will go. I think I kept on calling them coffins, but they're tombstones. And so that way that is ready to go. For the coffins, I'm just using my little cutter. It's a little bit out of frame, but to cut the little pieces of wood to size so they fit the so-called tombstone. You'll see what I mean. Because I'm putting it in the back. Thought I would use the front, but it looks too much like a bed. So I'm going to use the back, and I cut it all to size, and then I add a little bit of extra hot glue on top so that way it looks like it's curved a little bit. Then I go ahead and I just paint it using that mishmash of colors so that way it kind of matches everything there. And I write using a little bit of black paint. I write RIP, so rest in peace, on the little tombstones. Now I wind up gluing them before I write them, but that's okay. Probably if you're smart, you're going to do it the other way, but you know, I got ahead of myself. And then I also added RIP to the top of the big coffin, and I hot glued the ghost to there as well. Now, what I didn't realize was that my camera stopped recording, so I did put Mod Podge at the bottom of the palette, and I just like sprinkled some deer moss to give it a look of a little bit of grass, and I hot glued that little skull and the hand and the bones. So I just cut it off, but I just kind of added everything. I did cut the fingers off of that hand so that it's a little bit smaller. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out super duper duper cute. So the next DIY is also fairly easy, and again, from the Dollar Tree. You don't need a ton of supplies. I'm starting off with those ghosts from the Dollar Tree. They're like the ornaments. So these are slightly different than the other one that you saw, but they also come in a pack of 8. So I am just painting all of them white. For whatever reason, the footage is missing. So anyway, I have the Happy Easter sign that I used from a different project. You can get these signs at the dollar store every season. They have them. I just painted it out white a long time ago, and I dry brushed it with black. Then I have the little frames from the Dollar Tree, and I just attach the ghost to these frames, and I just clip them on. So that's it. Nothing too spectacular to it. Then I took a ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I wrapped it around the sign, and then I hot glued the picture frames to it, leaving a little bit of space so the ribbon would show a tiny bit through, and then I tied a bow to the top of the sign, and that's all there is to it. Now, sorry, I did also take off the backing from the frame so that way it didn't have that, and I took off those little things that I added to give interest to the piece just because they were creating different heights, so I didn't want that. I also wound up just adding a little bit of black to the frames as well. So I just dry brushed some black on it just to give it a little bit more of a spook factor, even though it's not a super spooky DIY, but I wanted it all to blend in with that ribbon. So here it is all finished. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out pretty cute. It's gonna probably sit on my fireplace, I think, downstairs. But anywhere it'll add a little bit of interest. On to the next DIY. So this next one frustrated me quite a bit. I started off with 8 of these witches hats and a ribbon. I got this ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Not the Dollar Tree, sorry. I've had this ribbon, but you do have this ribbon at the Dollar Tree. And I just soaked it in some coffee just to make it look a little bit dirty. Then I had these little pieces of paper. Now, sorry, this isn't strictly from the Dollar Tree. I got these for free from Benjamin Moore Supplier. They're wallpaper samples, so they gave that free to me. Now, you could use any kind of paper. They have craft paper, like scrapbook paper at the Dollar Tree, so you could use any of those. They have them all the time. Or even the calendar pieces, whatever you wanted. You could even print something off or use wrapping paper if you like that as well. Or tissue paper. Now, I'm using these. I'm hot gluing 4 of the witches hats together to give them some thickness. And then I tried to Mod Podge the wallpaper samples and it didn't work, so I wound up using Mod Podge and hot glue. And then I sanded down the pieces after I cut them around and sanded. I didn't show you the video because I was really frustrated with it, so I didn't record it because it would have just been not the best video. So what I did was I put the bigger pieces, as you can see here, on Mod Podging it, and then I wound up cutting around as much as I could. Then I even peeled back a little bit. Some spots I peeled off too much, which is okay. Then I hot glued whatever came off and I sanded everything down. I did use 4 pieces of paper, so I used it on both sides of the witches hats because I'm intending to put them in a tray. And then I wanted both sides to be decorated. I did let the Mod Podge sit for a couple of hours, but it still didn't stick properly. That's why I wound up having to use the hot glue. So after I got everything off, I put that ribbon around, but I'll show you kind of what it looked like before. I used some of that brown paint to dry brush all around and the edges as well, and it kind of gave them like an aged look. And then I sanded again, and I sanded around the corners and everywhere, and I used a pretty coarse sandpaper. It's just what I had on hand. Then the ribbon I took and I cut in half, and I tied it around like twice, and then made a little knot / ribbon, and then I did it again on the other side, so you'll see what I mean here. Now I did, like I said, soak that ribbon in some coffee. It didn't make it fully brown everywhere, but it did give it like a little bit of a dirty aged look, which is kind of what I love doing all the time. It's my favorite kind of way to decorate. And I just put them on just above the rim of the hat, the little bow. And they'll look great in a tray, just like a little addition. You can even make like a little riser for them if you wanted to, and kind of hot glue it to the bottom. Just depends what you want to do. I usually put mine on little wood round risers, and then that way, just because my tray has a bigger lip, so that's just what I do. And then, like I said, I made little bows. So they did turn out pretty cute, but it was a really frustrating DIY. Now, if I just had maybe used regular paper, they might have wound up looking a little bit better or a little bit easier to work with, but I still like the way they looked with the wallpaper. Now here's the next DIY. If you hear any kind of yelling or screaming, that is just my kids getting ready for bed, and that's what they sound like. They get really hyper. So anyway, this one, because I lost some of that footage with the painted ghosts, I did the same thing. I painted 3 ghosts white, and then I took a frame from the Dollar Tree. This is just their basic frames. It is an 8x10. And then I put a ribbon through the holes of the ghosts, and I wrapped the ribbon around and hot glued it to the back. Now, before I did anything with the frame, with the ghosts, I did wrap the kind of the cardboard backing of the frame in black vinyl, just because I wanted it to be black, and I was afraid if I painted it, it might kind of, sometimes it crumbles up, like it kind of curls up, so I didn't want that happening. So I just wrapped it in a black vinyl. It is a little bit shinier than I would like it to be, and some of the bubbles were showing through, but once I finished it, it looked pretty nice. The ghosts, originally I was going to use a different kind of rope, but then I wound up going with the purple ribbon. The purple ribbon is from the Dollar Tree as well. Now, like I said, I hot glued it to the back. I played around with it a little bit to get it to sag a little bit, but not too much. So you'll have to play around depending on how tight you make the ribbon, what length you cut, and how loose you want them to be. Kind of like how saggy you want them to be. Then I also got this spooky sign, which is from the Dollar Tree, and I painted that white as well. And I put it all back in the frame, and there you have it. Cute little DIY, simple. So this next DIY is still easy, but a little bit more involved. Well, it just took a little bit more time. So I bought this book, kind of fake book from the Dollar Tree. It's just, it looks like a book, but it's kind of like that press board or whatever. Then I'm using one of these eyes from the Dollar Tree. Comes in like a pack of 6. And a pack of these kind of spiders, snakes, little bug type of things. And I am also using a pipe cleaner. So the first thing that I am doing is I am cutting the eyeball in half so that I can glue the bottom part to the book. I am using an X-Acto knife, which works a little bit. I wound up just poking a hole, and then I use that little poking thing for weeding with the Cricut. I use that to poke another hole in there and pull, and then I kind of use my fingers to just rip the bottom part off. It doesn't have to be even, so I just needed the bottom part off somehow. It does look like it has a little thing that you could like kind of twist it and it would come off, but even like putting the X-Acto knife trying to like cut the glue, it just wouldn't. So then I just wound up poking a hole and ripping off parts of the bottom. And the parts that didn't want to come off, I used a mallet to help it come off. It's really funny. If my husband sees me doing these videos, sometimes he's like, no wonder you hurt yourself all the time. You do such silly things. So anyway, I'm sticking on all these bugs. I'm going to hot glue them and snakes to the book in just like a random pattern. I am recreating the Hocus Pocus book, the magic book of spells from Hocus Pocus. So that's kind of my idea here. I've looked up the images of the book to get it to kind of be the same. I am adding this pipe cleaner around the eye so it kind of looks like the lock to latch the book closed. And I make it just into kind of like a key shape. And I also have this little rat that came in like a pack of bugs too. And I'm attaching that as well. And just these little foam shapes, round shapes, just to the book as well. It's just any random pattern. And then as you can see, the snakes that I'm putting on the side, I'm actually going to cut them off so that way they look like they're wrapping around the book. They just were like a hard plastic that you couldn't wrap around. And I'm using hot glue to attach all of this. Once everything is set and dry, I go ahead and I use some tissue paper and I Mod Podge it on to the book. And I'm doing that to give the book kind of like a leathered look. I watched plenty of videos of other people making these books and they used some cool stuff, but it was kind of expensive stuff. So this is all, like I said, Dollar Tree. And you may, if you have kiddos and that like bugs, maybe you can, you know, take a bug or two and a snake or two if they have these Dollar Tree toys on hand and just use that. So I made a little hole where the eye is, and like I said, I Mod Podged everything to the book and let it set overnight. Once the Mod Podge set into place, I went ahead and I ripped little pieces and off where the tissue paper was sticking up a bit because I didn't do bit by bit for tissue paper. I just did the whole thing. I had to kind of rip some pieces off. So maybe if I were to do this again, I would rip individual pieces and Mod Podge them on. But live and learn. So maybe you can take from my mistakes and do it a little bit better next time. So the Mod Podge, I just added even more than on top. So I put it on the bottom and then I added more of the Mod Podge on top, ripping again little bits here and there to expose the snakes, the eye, the key, and all of that stuff. And then after that set, again, I wound up painting. So I let that dry, probably not as long as I should have. I let the first part dry longer. But I went and I used some black paint, gold paint, cashmere paint, and a little bit of old white or antique white, warm white, that's what it's called. And I just kind of mixed them all and I did bit by bit of each thing and dabbed on my paint onto the book. So I let the book dry on top of the garbage can, on top of a clear mat, and I was going to come back to it the day after. And I did come back to it the day after. The day after was garbage day. My husband had decided that it was garbage and put it in the garbage. He wasn't sure what it was and thought, well, it's on the garbage can, must be garbage. Speaks to what it looked like, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe his taste. I don't know. But I wound up going downstairs and I wasn't going to craft. And I thought, maybe I can just put a little bit of paint on it, have it set, and then see if I need to do anything else. So I went and I'm looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And I'm thinking, I know that I left it here to try. So I checked in the other room, thinking, okay, maybe I moved it. I couldn't find it. And then I saw the garbage can was empty. I said, oh my gosh, he probably threw it out. So I went digging through the garbage. Thankfully, it was just in the bag where all of my craft garbage was. So my craft garbage is papers and wrappers and little bits of vinyl. So nothing gross. So I wound up finding it, and I mean it was in a garbage bag with other stuff, but everything was in individual bags, so wasn't super gross. It was still going through garbage, but I found it. I digged it out so that I could finish painting it. I was so mad at him. I said he's not allowed to go to my craft room anymore. He also threw my mat out as well, so that mat that I have underneath there. I know it's painted over and all that stuff, but I use it, so it was kind of funny. But he's not allowed to take out the garbage from my craft room anymore. So anyway, here it is when it is all painted, and it dried kind of like this, as you can see here. So it just needed a little bit more color. I wanted it to look like leather. The book in Hocus Pocus looks like a brown leather, so I added some espresso paint and a little bit of black, and I'm just going over top of it. Just because the black, no, I didn't add black. I'm lying to you. I'm just adding espresso. And then I'm just dabbing it on and dabbing a little bit off on the plate and dabbing it on to make it look like it's leather. I do wind up using black, but I use the black to make the snakes and the key, the lock, look like they have little stitches on them. So here it is all done. I did touch up the eye a little bit too. Let me know what you think. I added a little bit more black detail to the rat. I actually like the way it turned out quite a bit. It looks spooky, cute, looks like the book. Let me know what you guys think. I'm trying to zoom in so you can see all of the different textures. It does look like leather. It looks like a creepy, creepy book. And on to the final DIY, which is super duper easy. So you'll love this one and very inexpensive. So I bought one of these skulls and a solar lamp from the Dollar Tree. I took the bottom part of the lamp off and I cut a hole on top of the skull. I used an X-Acto knife and some scissors to do that. And then I wound up cutting little holes into the eyes of the skull, and it looks like it has a tooth that's missing. I also cut a hole in there. I wound up using an X-Acto knife, and it wasn't doing the best work, so I grabbed a big kitchen knife and I did it with that. Again, when you watch me doing this, you probably fear that I'm going to cut my hand. I really need to be more careful because I am very accident prone. And I also wound up using some pliers just to get the little bits off because I needed to be able to fit the solar lamp in there, the bottom part of it. So, I mean, it really is easy. I could have used my scoring. I remembered now as I'm talking to you guys that I have a little scoring knife thing that I could have used, and I completely forgot that I have it. And then again, I used the big knife for the eyes and the tooth. And then I let it charge in the sun a little bit, and here's what it looks like when it is all lit up and done. Super duper easy and cute and a bit spooky. I really, really like this, and so inexpensive, so easy. You could do it as a little walkway to your house outside, and it would be expensive. So here are all of them done together. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're going to recreate some of these and if I've inspired you. So for this DIY, I'm making a little haunted house using this mini haunted house cutout, some moss, some charcoal, Rust-Oleum chalked paint in charcoal, and then some deco art chalky finish paint in white. And then some of these wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree as well that are kind of like stickers, but I wound up hot gluing them and painting them, and then obviously some hot glue as well. So I start off with just painting the haunted house, and I'm using, as I said, that black paint from Rust-Oleum, so it's a charcoal paint in the chalked finish. And I paint it all the way through on the back as well, and then I go over top of it with some of that white paint. And now when I'm painting the haunted house white, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I like to paint things, either dry brush them or paint over top of them, and then I like to blend everything in with a baby wipe. So for this haunted house, for the white part, I'm going to paint the whole haunted house in white, and then I do a little bit of blending with a baby wipe, and to me, it just gives that like a great effect. And that's all there is to the painting of the house, and then I will move on to painting the wood little cutouts. I'm very excited to let you guys know that today's video is a part of the Pinterest DIY challenge, which is hosted by the lovely Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. And what we had to do was we had to create DIYs of any theme of our choice that were Pinterest inspired. So mine are all Pinterest inspired, and make sure you head on over to my Pinterest to see all of these inspirations. I have 3 different Halloween boards and a tier tray board, and my ideas were all kind of inspired from pins in those boards. So head on over there if you wanted to see the originals. And there's a playlist, so check that out. It'll all be linked in my description below. Once I paint that and I go over to let it dry, then I go ahead and I paint the bats and ghosts and pumpkins. The bats I'm painting black, the ghosts white, and the pumpkins I'm using orange. I did forget to say that I'm using some pumpkin orange acrylic paint. And I just let everything dry. You only need 1 coat of the dark and the white because the wood is so raw, and you're able to just paint over it really well with 1 coat, and then I go ahead to assemble everything. So really, I just sort of just put any of the shapes wherever I think they would fit best. I'm kind of wanting the ghost to be peeking out through some of the windows as well as around the house, and then I add the bats as well. I thought I was going to add that skeleton head, but decided, I don't like that. So I just go ahead and I attach these, and I wind up using some hot glue to reinforce it because the little stickies aren't the best. And then I add the moss at the bottom, and that is all there is to this, and it just turned out amazing. So here I have just this wood plank, which has like a little bit of an indent. It almost looks kind of like a square from a canvas, if you were to take a canvas off, just very small. And I'm going to use it for the next DIY, and I am making kind of like a shadow box. So I'm actually using the inside of it versus the outside. And I'm going to create like a Halloween scene, which I thought was really cute. Pinterest is full of fantastic ideas. So I'm using this. I happened to find it at the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen them really ever, so this was the first time. But if you can't find something like this, you could easily make this with just a piece of a square block. Now it could be from one of those signs if you cut it off, or sometimes they do have little squares, wood squares that you can buy, and some tumble blocks, and you can make this super easy. So I did show you that I'm using those pumpkins and the little, actually it's a wood cutout that they had for Christmas, and I'm going to use it for this. I'm just cutting off the tree, but the orange and brown acrylic paints I'll be using for the pumpkins, just because I find the orange to be a little bit much. But before I do any of that, I am doing the inside of this box, shadow box or plank, whatever you want to call it, and I am painting it in just a black paint. I happen to be using my Rust-Oleum charcoal paint, but you could use acrylic paint. I'm just using that because I have it on hand and I had it out for the other project, so I thought I would just continue on with it. So for the border, I'm just using the part of the brush to dry it off, and then I'm going to be blending it in with a little bit of a baby wipe, and just to kind of make it look like it's a lighter shade of black. And then I go ahead, as I mentioned, to cut off the Christmas tree just to give me a little pickup truck that's going to be actually holding some large jack-o'-lanterns versus the Christmas tree. And I do have to paint out the truck, and I'm painting him out in like a combination of orange and black. So I will have all of these displayed on a tray for you at the very end. And if you really want to see how I put trays together and how my trays look for Halloween, I am having an episode come out on the 13th over on my home channel, where I'm going to be displaying my tier trays for Halloween. I'm going to try and do the house tour as well before that, after that, but I'm not sure how fast I'll get it done. I have a very, very busy week with family. It is my little guy's 6th birthday, so it's a very busy week, so I don't know what I'll be able to finish, but I will try to have the home tour done next week, as well as the porch tour. So if you're interested, make sure you check out my home channel as well. Subscribe there and hit the notification bell so you see more. And if you're not subscribed here, do that as well, because I post about it on my community too. So after I have everything painted, I go ahead and I just make the tree that I want the tree to kind of look like there's a shadow and it's kind of spooky. So I'm just using some jute rope for that. And what I'm doing is just separating the top of the jute rope. So it'll be one thicker piece and then a few pieces kind of frayed at the top. And then it's time to assemble everything and finish off the truck. I wind up painting like a moon and some clouds at the top in white, and then I hot glue everything down, and then I just add little touches to the truck and to where they're needed, just so that it gives me the look that I am going for. And this is super easy and super fun to do, and if you have a Cricut, you could even cut out these shapes and paint them in, whatever you'd like. And if you can't find the same thing, if you can't find the little truck, you could always use those rubber ornaments that they have at Christmas time, or you could just cut out a truck from cardboard or cardstock and then just paint it out. Really super easy to do, and the options that are there if you can't find stuff at the Dollar Tree, because I know with ours it's like a hit and miss. If I go back now, I won't ever see these again for the rest of the season, and I happened to just run across them in August. So here it is, all finished, and I think it's so cute and kind of spooky. So another even more simple DIY and very cute. I'm using these pumpkins. These are the carvable pumpkins that you can use for so many fall and Halloween DIYs, including some Christmas DIYs, which I will be showing you this month. But if you can pick these up, they're so versatile that you can use them for so much. I suggest you pick them up. So I'm using my Rust-Oleum chalked paint in linen white, and I'm painting my pumpkin out. Now this took 3 coats for it to completely cover. it just had the orange just kept on showing through. So you just do need several coats to cover it. And that's why I use the chalk paint versus acrylic paint, because I didn't want it to use up all of my white acrylic paint for this pumpkin. You don't have to use the chalk paint. You could use any paint that you have on hand, but I like to buy this big gallon, well, not gallon, but this big tin of the chalk paint because it's not a bad deal, and chalk paint dries fast. It has that matte finish, and it's high quality. So I think I would have even needed more coats had I been using acrylic paint. And so all I'm doing with this is I'm painting the pumpkin black, painting the pumpkin white, and I'm painting the stem black, and then I'm using my Cricut to cut out a crow. I got the image off of Cricut Design Space. I just put crow and it was a free image, and then I put the stencil on and I painted in, and that's all there is to it. If you can freehand draw a crow, I tried to do that. It didn't work out for me, so I wound up using my Cricut. But if you can do it, by all means do it. Or if you have like a cutout or anything, or if you can even find an image online and print it and then cut it out and then trace it around and paint it in there, whatever, depending on your abilities. So the only thing to keep in mind if you are using vinyl as your stencil for this is you want to make sure that when you put the crow stencil on, that you're either pushing it down when you're painting or dabbing it really lightly, but you still have to make sure that it's sticking to your pumpkin really well, because the pumpkin is textured and bumpy and it can leak, so you just have to be careful. And then also your vinyl will likely rip off some paint, so you got to go back and put more paint on, or if you cover it in Mod Podge, it probably won't rip the paint off. But just some tips. So here it is all finished. Again, super simple, but it'll look amazing in the tier tray. So these next few DIYs are, again, super simple DIYs. I'm using some of the fall stuff in together with some of the Halloween stuff, and really easy but cute little additions to the tier tray. So for this one, I am using 2 hay bales and these bloodshot eyes, and I am just hot gluing the eyes to the hay bales, and then I'm hot gluing each eye on top of the other and kind of making like an eyeball topiary. Very cute, very Halloween, and really fun. And that's all there is to it. So that's it, and here it is. I love it. I think it's cute and very Halloween. So if you thought the last one was simple, this one is even more simple. What you'll need is a skull, and I had this little pack of skulls in here, and an eyeball, so I'm just using what's left over. And you would just want to make a little hole in your eyeball and a little hole in your skull. You can either use some sort of knife for this. You could also use your glue gun and melt it down a little bit and then cut it out. Up to you. I wound up using just like a little knife to pick out a hole, and then I have these little faux votive candles, like battery operated ones, and I'm just putting these on top of those. And then I have some of the Halloween ribbon that I bought at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just wrapping it around the base of the votive candle so that they match, and that's all there is to it. So just look how cute these guys are. They're so cute, and they've got the spook factor because they have that light inside of them, and they'll just look amazing in a tier tray. So I'm back to the hay bales. I love these hay bales. am so excited that they came around this year. I've done so much with them for fall and now into Halloween, and I may wind up using them even for Christmas, who knows. But I am just hot gluing a whole bunch together to try and make kind of like a stack of hay like you would have at the farm. And then I will be using those skulls that you saw in the previous DIY, and I'm going to be making kind of like a skull topiary type of thing on top of these hay bales. Really easy, really fun. Now the inspiration was with pumpkins, but I've decided to do skulls, and I've done that a few times throughout this video where my inspiration was a little bit different, but it was my inspiration, and that's where my creativity came in. And I hot glue these together, and then I hot glue the skulls one on top of the other, and again, that's all there is to this one. Again, another really easy one. Not too difficult this time around, but still super cute. I did decide to add some of the bones. There was like a pack of bones at Dollar Tree that you could get, and I just added them to the hay bales just to add a little bit of detail. And since I had a bag of bones, I decided to do a stack of bones. And I mean, what's more spookier than a stack of bones on Halloween? So I'm just making kind of a random stack of bones. I'm putting 3 horizontally and then 2 vertically, and then I continue adding as I see fit. And I make my stack of bones. I actually put 3 vertically, not 2 vertically. But anyway, I just continue to do this until I get the height that I was looking for. It just like another cute thing to add to your tray. I'm always looking at different little fillers and different things that you can put in trays, and I thought this was perfect. If you think this is too simple and you're not liking the color of the bones, you could always paint them a different color to make them maybe look a little bit more realistic, but I really liked the kind of dirty, yellowy, white kind of color of these bones and skulls and all that, so I left them as they are. To me, they kind of look rustic and more zombie-like, I don't know. Then I wanted to continue on with the spook factor, so I found this image from Whiskey and Wit, and I printed it off. It's from her blog. And I printed it off, and now I'm just cutting it to size so that it fits my frame. And the frame is a picture frame from the Dollar Tree. I thought about adding bones because I had some extra ones around the frame, but I didn't like the way that looked, so I'm just keeping the plain very simple. This is probably even easier than any of the other ones, but I'm taking the back out, putting the little picture in, and that's all there is to this DIY, but it's such a cute little addition to the tray, and I love it. And to go with the Hocus Pocus Broom Company, we need some brooms. So I am making brooms using some of those leftover bones. And I'm just choosing a few different sizes, and then I am using some jute rope for the bottom part of the broom, and I'm hot gluing it, and then I'm also wrapping around some jute rope at the top so it looks like, you know, it's been handmade, the broom. And that's all there is to this one. After I create those brooms, I hot glue them together so they're a stack of 3 so they don't fall over. You don't have to hot glue them, but one is too little, I think, to have unless you have a mini tray. So I thought if I glue them together, it'll look a little bit more substantial. So here they are, and they look so cute and adorable. I love them. This is another simple one. I saw this from the Schwoven's Nest. Sandra had made, but I forget what she made. It was, I think, something for Easter maybe. And she used these wood ornaments as well, and she glued a whole bunch of them together to make kind of like a chunky wood decor piece. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using all but one of these hats that come in a pack of 8, and I am hot gluing them all together, and then I'm going to be painting them in a purple color. Now my purple color is really light, so I just add a little bit of black to it to make it a bit of a darker purple, and then I add some ribbons to cover the hole, and I have a nice chunky little wood decor piece for $1 versus, you know, the $5-6 that it would be somewhere else. And you can see these little chunky wood decor pieces in a lot of the trays that you find on Pinterest. So this is one way that you can make that yourself for probably less than buying it somewhere. So here it is, all completed again. Very, very cute. For this DIY, I'm using these square beads from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to be spray painting in black using the Tremclad spray paint. And I am also using one of the witch's hats that I saved from the package and some jute, not jute twines, yeah, just some twine. And I've painted the witch's hat in purple, and I've attached it to one end of the beads, and then I attached a tassel to the other. I didn't record myself doing the tassel because I had hit record and it didn't record. That's why. A very simple reason. I thought I hit record, but I didn't. I use my phone, so sometimes I'll push the button and then I think it's done it and I don't look. I mean, it's completely my fault for not paying attention, I guess. But anyway, I just wrapped it around a few times around my hand, and then I cut the bottom part. You guys have seen tassels made before. If you would like a tassel tutorial, I can do one for my next DIY. But anyway, I attached that to one end and then the witch's hat to the other, and it's just a cute little addition to the tray. And last but not least, this DIY includes all of the things that you see in the picture, except for the square beads. I used that for the DIY before. But I'm using these jack-o'-lanterns and the cats. They're all the wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree. And I had spray painted the cats black, the jack-o'-lanterns white. And then I'm attaching everything to some twine. And I'm doing white bead, black bead, white jack-o'-lantern, then I start with black bead, white bead, black hat, and then I continue until I finish, and then I add some bows to them, and that's it. And the garland is done, and it's cute. Awesome for Halloween. I have it displayed on my fireplace, but like I said, you could use it anywhere. You could, actually I didn't say that, did I? The reason I had made it is because I thought that you could use it either, like if you have your tray displayed on a round table, you could have it hanging off of there. You could have it kind of like around your tray if you wanted to, or you could have it on your fireplace. So it's not a like a tray decor, but it could be if you wanted it to kind of enhance your tray. That was my thinking for that. I may wind up doing that when I do my home tour, so you might see that if you pop over to my home channel, but if you don't, then I would love to see what you do. So maybe you can share with me over on Instagram. So I do have Instagram and I do have Pinterest. So if you're interested in any of these, all of these were inspired by things that I had found on Pinterest. I have three Halloween boards that you can check out over on Pinterest. Now, this sadly concludes all of my Halloween DIYs. I am switching over to Christmas next weekend. As sad as it makes me to be done with Halloween because I love Halloween, I also love Christmas, so I'm really excited to start Christmas. And the Hallmark movies are starting on the 22nd, so I got to start my DIYs as well. I'm sure you know this, but in case you don't, when you are putting the twine through the holes in the beads, some of the holes are smaller than the others, and your rope might fray. So what you want to do is you want to either attach a needle or even like a toothpick or something that you can kind of tie to the edge of the rope, and so you can pull it through. Like I said, I'm sure you know what this is. Even if you just took some tape and you just taped it at the end and then pulled it through, that would work as well. It's just to make it a little bit more firm so you can pull it through. That's all. And I want to thank Sonia for hosting this collab. If you guys don't know, Sonia's my sister, and I think she's pretty amazing. So I love all of her DIYs, not just because she's my sister, but I also think she's pretty talented. So make sure you check out her over at Domestic Diva DIY. She's got a lot of channels. She's got a home channel, cooking channel, DIY channel. She's got a vlogging channel. So check her out. She's really talented and pretty amazing, so make sure you check her out. Check out the playlist. There's going to be lots of inspiration on there. It's all Pinterest inspired DIYs, so it'll be great. And let's get back to this DIY. So here I am just adding some ribbon there from the Dollar Tree that I've just cut into little slits and then tied together and attached to the twine, and here it is all finished. It looks pretty darn cute. So as promised, I will have a display of all of these on a tray, and here it is all lit up in the dark, looking pretty spooky. I'm not sure that it'll stay this way. I just wanted to show you how you could display it, give you some ideas, but I am really loving all of these DIYs. And I've added a little bit of extra fillers in there, like that pumpkin that I DIY'd and the hands from the Dollar Tree and this little skeleton. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you drop by next week for the start of my Christmas DIYs, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment. You guys have been so quiet lately, so make sure you leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. What was your favorite? What did you like? What did you not like? So I'm starting with these two dollhouses from the Dollar Tree. I love these, and I am going to make them into some spooky haunted house, into a spooky haunted house. So I'll start off by taking the roof off of one of them because I want it to be a two-level haunted house. I thought about making two separate ones, but then I changed my mind and I wanted to make a bigger one. And then once I've done that, then I go ahead and I paint everything, and I'm just using some acrylic paint. I am mixing some black acrylic paint together with some silver acrylic paint. And I'll save the roof of the second house for maybe a different project, but for now I'll paint them separately. I thought I might glue them together, but I think it worked out better to just paint them first and then glue them after. I was worried that with moving it around and whatnot, I would take it apart. I mean, like break it apart. So I'll paint it first and then I will go ahead and glue it. So You can use chalk paint if you want. I just have lots of acrylic paint that needs to be used, so I'm using that. And then you'll see at the end I put Mod Podge over top because the plastic with the paint, it does peel off easily, so hopefully this will keep the paint sticking a little bit longer. Not measuring anything with the paints, I'm just mixing them together to get, I just wanted more of like a grayish black rather than a full black color. And I paint the entire house as well as the inside of the house because I don't want the white showing through at all. And I will be adding some lights once I set up my decoration, but it'll just be whatever, like a little tea light from the Dollar Tree. Nothing, I'm not adding any kind of electrical stuff, just like a little flashing battery operated light. So after I paint and dry the house, I go ahead and I just distress it a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm using some cashmere paint as well as some gold paint from the Dollar Tree again. And I'm mixing them together and just dry brushing all over the house. And then the doors, I'm making that color, like the mixed color. And the rest of the house, I'm just dry brushing over just to give it kind of like an aged type of look. And I'm just using a brush and I'm dabbing off the paint as I go to do the dry brushing. So if you don't know what dry brushing is, it's when you take your brush, you put some paint on it, and then you kind of dab off the extra paint and leave it to be fairly dry, and you just like slightly put paint on in different spots, so it gives, like, you're not fully painting, you're just spot painting it and lightly brushing it on whatever you're making. So that's what I'm doing with this. First I thought I would use this brush, but then I wound up just using a regular brush because this one was, I think I didn't wash it properly last time, so it was a little bit hard and it was causing some issues with taking paint off. Now you could put Mod Podge before you do the dry brushing to avoid, you know, accidentally taking any kind of paint off, but I didn't, so I just did touch-ups wherever touch-ups needed to be done. And then I went ahead and I just added one of these picks. These were just garden picks. You could use a paint stir stick as well, but I wound up using this just to give a little thing for the top of the house to sit on, because once you take the roof off, there's like a little lip where the roof slides on, so the heights of the house is a little bit different from one side to the other. So you just want to make sure that you make them the same height, so that way your house isn't crooked. Although it would be kind of cool if it would be crooked. I think that it would just have a gap in between rather than it being crooked, because it would still sit on the thing, because the one side is lifted and the other side is lifted, and there's like a little tiny gap. So I wanted to fill in that gap, so I just put in 2 pieces. I cut up one of those sticks and I put 2 pieces measured out, and I put them one on top of the other. One I slotted underneath and the other one I just put over top. And then I had a little bit that needed to be filled in as well, so I put that in. I just cut off a little piece and I put it in there, and then I filled everything that kind of looked like there was a gap. I put more hot glue just so that it would be nice and full. Hopefully it makes sense as I'm talking, but you can watch what I'm doing so that way you get a good idea of what I am talking about. So once I finished gluing everything on, I just used hot glue. I then wound up just painting over top of that with that same combination of the black and metallic, because I wanted to make sure that nothing showed through, none of that lighter wood showed through. And you can't even tell that there was a gap once it's done. You'll see when I finish everything and show you, it looks quite nice. And you can So as I mentioned, I Mod Podged everything just so that the paint would stick better, and I just used one of these foam brushes to apply the Mod Podge. Don't press super hard, and make sure you're very generous with that Mod Podge because you don't want to take the paint off. But if you happen to take it off, you can just reapply it once everything is dry, and it will be okay. And then once this was dry, well, kind of dry, not fully dry, but kind of dry, I wound up gluing together the 2 houses. Now, I did use a combination of E6000 and hot glue. Just make sure when you're putting them on that you're not mixing the 2 glues, that, like, so what I did was in the middle, I put the E6000, and on the sides, I put the hot glue. And I just did that so it would hold it quicker together, so I wouldn't have to worry about clamping anything or making anything stick too much so they wouldn't fall as it was drying and setting. And then that's all there was to that. We'll see. Hopefully it holds up nicely. With the combination of the 2 glues, it should stay pretty still. Now for the hot glue, I used my hot glue gun that you plug in, because I find that it makes it a little bit warmer, makes the glue a little bit hotter so that it sticks a bit better. Now that is basically it for this one. What I wound up adding, which you'll see in the finished piece here, is I added those little dolls that came with the dollhouse, because it comes with furniture and little people. So I added the 3 ladies that it came with. I added them to each of the floors, as you can see here, in the doors and in the windows, to give a little bit of a spook factor. And then I added a ghost as well. For the next project, I'm using a Dollar Tree wood cutout of a haunted house, and these dowels from Dollarama. They're wood dowels that they'll help the house stand up straight.
So again, I'm using a combination of both glues to glue that in, and that'll be the base of my house. Now I contemplated whether I was going to add a little bit of a roof and side structure to make it look like it was a three-dimensional house, but I didn't do it in the project to show you. If I decide to do it after, I'll link, yeah, if I decide to do it after, I'll probably share it on my Instagram, and then you can take a peek as to what I did. Or maybe I'll do a little blurb in my next video just to show you. Um, I am filling in that little hole because they all have that little hole for the little rope to hang it up on. So I am just filling that in with some wood filler. I just happen to have this colored one on hand, so I'm using that in there. You don't have to do this, and you could use anything to fill it in, but I chose to use this. And on the back I just glued a little piece of wood so that the wood filler would actually just stay in the hole and not go through the back. And then I painted out the house using that combination of the black and silver metallic paint. However, I lost the footage somehow. I don't know how, but I lost it. This happens to me often. I think my phone stops recording and then I lose it. But anyway, I wound up painting that, but before I painted it, I added a whole bunch of hot glue all over the house to make it look like it and then I also used haunted, and it has
bones
and the
cobwebs all over.
skull, and this came
So
from the
you'll
Dollar
see
Tree.
in the
So I
finished piece what
just
that looks
glued
like.
3 of the bones together, and then I put the skull on
And
top.
then
I also
I
dry
added
brushed
some
them with
embellishments
some
using those
black,
little wood
just a little bit to make
shapes,
them a bit
which
dirty.
you'll see
So here you
again
can
in
see
a little
the
bit.
painted
Those
piece,
wood shapes
and
are
I'm
from
just adding the
Dollarama
spider,
as well.
the cobweb, the cat, and the poison sign on to the house. The poison sign I painted with a little bit of green and black mixed together, and the cat and the spider I painted black. The cobweb I dry brushed some black on it, but it all mainly looks pretty black. But I love the way the color turned out on the house. I didn't put too much of the paint on, so you can kind of see some of the brown showing through under. So I wanted it to have a light covering over top. And I also wound up adding a little bit of the tan, which I kind of put it on my brush, and then I brushed it on, just like mixing it with the black, so it just made the color a little bit lighter. And then I fixed up again wherever it needed to be fixed up because of the little holes the brown was showing through on the other side.
And so here's the finished piece. I really like the way it turned out. It's spooky, but not super spooky.
And for the last piece, it is also from the Dollar Tree. It is this battery operated, I think cobbler school or something it says on it. It's one of the Christmas Village houses that they have, which I wanted to make into a haunted house. You could probably buy all of those Christmas Village houses and make them all haunted houses. And so what I'm just doing is I am adding some of the black. And again, this one I'm just making the house look dirty. So I wanted to keep some of the original colors, and I just wanted it to look like it had been aged and abandoned. So that's what I'm doing here, is adding that metallic and black combination color and just adding it to the entire house. Anything that was white I wanted to look dirty. I wanted the roof to look dirty. I wanted everything to look kind of dirty. And then I also do the same idea with the hot glue to make it look like it's full of cobwebs. And then I just wind up painting lightly over top of it once it dries again. And then I add a little bat to this house as well, and like from those wooden shapes. And that's all there is to this haunted house. You'll see everything put together. I'll do a Halloween house tour probably in the next week or two, and then you can see everything put together. I like to have my house done for Halloween by October 1st, but we're having a party on Saturday for my kids. So I'm going to see if I can get everything done for Halloween, but I'm very ambitious and still working every day, so it's going to be a little bit hard to try and get everything done. I have a bunch of appointments as well for me and my son, so we'll see. We'll see what I wind up getting done. I'll try my best to get as much done as I can. I would like to put out another video for you for Halloween with Dollar Tree Halloween DIYs, and then I want to use that all in my decor. So that's why I'm saying week or two, as I might not be able to make it quite the to next week to have everything done. But here it is all completed. Hopefully you think this is as neat as I do. And then here are all three completed together, and I just kind of made a little vignette for you. I have these 3 jars that I was going to use for a different project, but I wound up not using them for that, and I spray painted them in a white trim clad flat paint. And I'm also using these free printables, which I got from Whiskey and Wit. I will link her blog in my description below. I printed them on the Hippo water slide decal paper, and I've just cut them with leaving like a little bit of a border around them. If you want the full tutorial on how to do this, I will link my video below. I've done a tutorial on them previously. And basically I'm just wetting the decals and I am applying them to these jars, and then I will be writing some text on them. I've decided that I wanted them to say trick or treat, so I am just writing that out in a Sharpie. You could definitely use some vinyl if you have a Cricut cutting machine. I just decided for this I wanted to freehand write it. And because the cat is a little bit bigger, I've decided the cat one to be the or, because that's a smaller word to write down. And then I'm just stuffing them with some Dollar Tree picks, some of the blue dahlias and other florals. And I'm also wrapping some jute rope around the rim of the jars, and I'm doing it about 4 times. Do however much you want. You don't even have to do this. I just thought it would look a little bit nicer. If you use mason jars, you could spray paint the rim to a color of your choice, kind of to match whatever your printables are, and then you could put that around, but I did not use mason jars, so I'm just wrapping some jute rope. So that's about all there is to it. Once I put those floral picks in there, I also added some of the skeleton skulls into the floral arrangement, and that's it. The easiest DIY ever, and it looks so cute, and it'll be a great either mantelpiece decor or in a tray on one of my tables. I haven't decided yet, but here they are all finished. For this next DIY, I'm just using some Rust-Oleum chalked country gray paint and these carvable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. These pumpkins are great because you can do all sorts of things with them, and these little stems just come right off because they're just on a toothpick. And I remove them and I just give these 2 coats of the gray paint. And then I will be stacking them. I got this inspiration from from Kirkland's. They have a 4 stack of 4 pumpkins stacked one on top of the other, and I thought it was super cute, so I thought I'd replicate it. Now I'm just using 3. I just thought they're so light, these pumpkins, that it might be too heavy for 4 of them. So once those are painted and dry, I decide to stack them. Now I'm using hot glue to glue them down, but I'm also using just one of those barbecue skewers, the wood ones, to stick them on, and then I kind of do them topsy-turvy. So I put them off to the side and I use that skewer. I've cut it in half and I use it to poke it down so that it kind of goes sideways, if that makes sense. And then I just do that until I get the shape that I want, and I reinforce it with hot glue. Once I have them all stacked, I put back the little stems and I paint them in black. And I do this so that way I can add them back to the pumpkin and have the pumpkin kind of look like it's all wobbly and sideways and kind of crazy looking. And then I cut out some a mouth and eyes out of vinyl. Now I wanted all the eyes and the mouths to be different. So you'll see that if you want them to be symmetrical and perfect, by all means either use your Cricut machine or you can trace out shapes. I mean, you could do anything you wanted. This is kind of the look that I was going for. And once everything dry, I also wound up touching it up a little bit too, and then sticking on the vinyl, and that's all there is to this one as well. So again, a super fun and easy DIY for you to do on a budget. So here it is all finished. I think they look so cute. They kind of look a little bit crazy, and I just love them. They'll look great in my Halloween decor. This next DIY is another super easy one. I'm using a mason jar and one of these solar lights from the Dollar Tree, and I am just painting it on the inside in white, and I'm adding a little bit of water to some chalk paint, and I poured it in and I just kind of twirled it around until I got the color that I wanted. Then I spray painted the top of the solar light in black as well as the rim for the mason jar. And I drew on a ghost face, wrote boo, and that's all there is to this one. And for sure, if you wanted to use your vinyl, you totally could, and it would look awesome. And here it is. I love the way it turned out. I think he's super spooky. For this next one, I'm using the decals again. I'm using the Witch's Starter Pack one. And again, I cut it so that I wouldn't see any of those lines and as close as I could to the edge. And I'm going to put it on a mug. Now, if you wanted to use this as a drinkable mug, I believe you can even bake them in the oven. So that way it sets, or you could put Mod Podge or anything that's kind of food safe. I'm not going to be using it for eating, so I'm just going to be putting it on there, and it'll probably go into one of my trays. And so I just adjust it. Now, what I like about these, if you wet them enough, you can kind of fiddle around with them and get them to be wherever you wanted them to be. Like they're forgiving to a certain extent, but you just have to wet them really well. So anyway, here they are, and then you want to move when you're taking the excess water off. Don't press too hard like I did with this paper towel. You just want to do it lightly from the center out so that way you don't move it or wrinkle your paper. But that's all there is to it. They're so easy to use, and I think they look really great. So here it is all finished. I didn't display it in a tray. I will do that a little bit later on. I just wanted to show you what it looks like on its own. For this next one, I just have a scrap piece of wood. You could definitely use one of the signs from the Dollar Tree. Just be careful if you're going to use it outside. Um, that sign may fall apart because it's just like chipboard or pressboard, so it's kind of like paper. So I'm using just some pressure treated wood that I'm going to stain. I think it's pressure treated, or it could just be from a pallet. It was from the garage. It was just a scrap. It was where the pressure treated stuff was, but I'm not sure that it is. But anyway, I'm going to be putting a little bit of this Rust-Oleum decorative glaze just to give it like a stain. And then I'm going to be making it a sign. Now, I haven't decided whether I'll keep this underneath like where my deck is, my covered deck, or if I'm going to put it out front. If I put it out front, I'll have to protect it somehow with some varnish. But if you have a covered porch, you don't have to do any of that. So then I just picked a font that I liked from Cricut. I will link the font name in my description below. And I found a free broom image from Cricut design space, and I cut them out using my Cricut, and now I'm going to just dab on some white paint onto them. Always use a transfer paper when you're transferring vinyl like this, otherwise it'll stretch too much and it won't look very nice. I did weld all of the letters so that way it would all look good. And when you are dabbing on the paint, make sure you tap off the excess paint so that way not too much goes through, otherwise it'll bleed. And here it is all finished. I really love the way it turned out. It's so super cute. So this one is another spooky one. It's for outdoors again, and I'm using 4 of these laundry baskets from the Dollar Tree. And I've cut the top of the baskets off, and I just cut it around the rim just so you could see. And I will be spray painting them in a flat black from not from Restore, from Tremclad. And to cut them off, I just used my miter shears, and to spray paint them, I just use that spray paint. And once I've spray painted all of them and they dried, I'm going to attach them together and attach the chains. I'm also using 3 chains from the Dollar Tree. To attach the chains, I'm going to do kind of a combination of 2 things. I'm going to hook them on because they have little slits, and I'm going to attach them with some zip ties. And then I'm going to attach the baskets, the 2 baskets together, one on top of the other, also using zip ties, but I'm going to leave a little bit open because I want to be able to put the skeleton animals from the Dollar Tree in there. So it kind of looks like I've captured some animals in there. And again, the spook factor. And these will just be hanging outside. I have one of those planter hanger things, so I'll be hanging them on those. Again, a really simple and inexpensive DIY, and again adds to the spook factor. When you're placing the baskets one on top of the other, you're just going to have to play around with it to make sure that they kind of line up. And it's up to you how much, whether you want to push it down a little bit more or you want them to kind of stay up, but just use zip ties. I'm using black zip ties so you can't see them to tie them together. And then I am tying the 2 baskets together with a chain, but I'll do that outside and you'll see the picture. I really do apologize for the wonky angles, but I wanted to show you how I attached the chain, and then I wanted to show you where I put the animals. I did hot glue the rat to the bottom, and then the bat I had hanging up from the top of the basket, and I hot glued his little hands to the top as well. But these are really hard to record. I don't have that much space in there to record this where you can see it properly, unless I was doing it on the floor, but my back will go if I try to do it on the floor. But I just wanted to kind of give you some of these ideas, and hopefully you can see enough that you can understand how I made these. And then so you can see the rat there, and that's where I was telling you, you'll have to kind of fiddle around with to try and get it to get in there. And once you get it to sit one on top of the other the way you want it, then you just want to close it up with your zip tie. You might have to cut one of the slits just a little bit so that way it gives. But other than that, that's all there is to it. It's really, really easy. So pretty spooky stuff here, and I love, love, love the way they look. They'll even look cooler when it's not so sunny outside and a little bit cloudy.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video and got lots of inspiration, lots of stuff that you can make here for very cheap. And thank you so much. Have a great day and stay safe, everyone. And thank you for watching, and subscribe if you haven't.